Another Auburn football game means another opportunity for Jay Crawford and these young guys to show out.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby, and joining us, as he does every Wednesday, for a little happy hour edition of the show, Mike G of the War Report, hanging out with us. I want to talk about Jarquez Hunter and what kind of balance he needs to have in this offense. That's coming up. But
yeah,
another game, another opportunity for Jay Crawford, who has just been incredible as a true freshman at a position, cornerback, that's not always easy because you're so isolated, especially in these modern offenses, that college football teams like to run. He's been nothing short of exceptional. We saw him get that pick against Kentucky that kind of helped momentum swing in Auburn's direction a week ago. But I want to see that next step, not only for Jay Crawford, but for the rest of Auburn's defensive freshmen that we're seeing more and more of each and every week.
Jay Crawford is a perfect representation, Zach, of the development that's happening on the defensive side of the ball under DJ Durkin. Yep. Those kids over there are balling, and the end results are kind of distracting from how much they're balling. But these guys have had Auburn in every single game. Now, the secondary has had their moments where they've given up big plays, but look at what happened last Saturday. Now they're getting picks. They're getting turnovers.
Ooh.
Right? And could this secondary be a strength of this team led by Jay Crawford and Kayan Lee and these other guys? I think so. So it's really exciting. You just have to be – and all the talk that's happening on social media where the fire freeze talk, people are completely ignoring what's happening on defense when they say that. And I don't think it's fair to those kids. He was the fourth highest graded corner in all of college football last week per PFF. So, he's doing a great job. I'm so encouraged by the development that's happening there.
Yeah, I think so too. And this is a guy who seems to be super happy. You talk to some of the folks close to these freshmen, and it sounds like they all get along so well, and they want to win. They want to win so bad, and more specifically, they want to win at Auburn. And so I think when you look at Jay Crawford and you look at Malik Blockton and you look at Kaleb Harris and you look at DeMarcus Riddick and you look at Amaris Williams, I mean, there's just so many young, talented guys that I think are going to get more and more reps over the course of this season. That was a big thing through the bye week. We're like, okay, I hope you're getting these freshmen ready to cook. And they did. They did. And they don't look like freshmen, Mike. They look like really, really solid SEC defenders already. And so many people talk about proof of concept early in coaching tenures. I did a show on this the other day, and people really came at me. And I think they're looking at the wrong thing. They're looking at Peyton Thorne and his production, or lack thereof, and the question marks that surround the offense. I get it. Hugh Freeze is an offensive coach. You're going to tie offensive production to him because of that. He's the play caller. I get it. I'm not nitpicking that at all. That's fine. You can do that. But to say that players aren't getting better, or to say that players aren't providing a path to saying, hey, Auburn can be a legit team a year from now, I don't think that's fair to say either. Because let's look at the guys who were freshmen last year now that are playing a larger role. Keldrick Falk.
Yeah.
Kayan Lee. Let's go to the offensive side of the ball. Connor Liu. Or Braden Joyner, a guy who I think a lot of folks kind of wrote off of, like, maybe he'll play as a junior or a senior, and he's kind of hit the ground running. The guys that they're bringing in through the high school ranks are playing, and they're playing really, really well. And that's the stuff you should look at.
I think Free said on Monday that there were 6 freshmen in on that goal line stand versus Kentucky last week.
Yeah, and I don't like on the 4th and goal, I don't think that's true. But they all did play. Kinsley Fawcett, I don't think, was on the field on the 4th and goal.
Maybe not on there, but at some point during that goal line stand, those 4 plays there, you had a lot of freshmen playing.
Right.
Look, Jay Crawford is going to be such a huge piece when you have a guy who can essentially just shut down his side of the field. The one place where I feel like the secondary needs to improve is just here and there. They've been giving up big plays. I chalk that up to youth and in their development. I think that'll get better. But overall, you've got to be really happy with what they've been doing. Giving up less than 350 yards per game in today's college football is incredible. For what these guys are accomplishing is pretty incredible. And we've seen some pretty dynamic offensive performances. Look, the Auburn held Georgia to 381 yards offense, and Georgia went out and put 500 on Alabama's defense. Don't tell me that the development isn't happening defensively. It's happening. This is why I don't like when people say it's been an ongoing argument about whether this is truly a rebuild or not. And I've said, yeah, you may be rebuilding some things, but the rebuild portion of this isn't the reason for your record right now. I think coaching and scheme are why your record is why it is, but you had the talent to win these games, Zach. And I think Jay Crawford is a perfect example of that.
Yeah, the rebuild label on a season or seasons is interesting because, like, yes, they are trying to get Auburn back to where it was.
Correct. Yes.
But it's not like we were competing for a championship 3 years ago. Like, this team hasn't really been great since, I mean, they were really good in 17, 19. They had a few, like, I think they could have achieved more in 19, but it's not like they lost a lot of guys to the NFL or graduation. They've had to rebuild. So that's such a weird, like, it's such a.
That's what Cohen said on Feinbaum, though. Like, before Auburn played Oklahoma, I was sitting in the room. He went right before me before I went on Feinbaum. And he said, look at all the guys that left and this and that. And, he's trying to buy his coach time in the court of public opinion. So I get it. But it's just, like I said, it's not even.
But at that point, like, what's a rebuild then? Like, exactly. Is a rebuild any program that's trying to get better? Like, you are technically rebuilding, but, like, what's the time frame?
Right, but is that the reason for the results that we're seeing? The primary reason? I don't feel like it's the primary reason for the results that we're seeing. This is why I don't like that label being placed on it, as if it's an excuse for why you started 2-5 before you beat Kentucky.
I agree with that. Yeah, that's fine. Yes, yeah. I mean, it was decision making on your players, which leads to coaching and not putting guys in situations to succeed against Cal, against Arkansas. Your guys weren't emotionally ready to hold on to a lead on the road at Missouri. Yeah, sure.
Right.
Like that's not a talent thing. Right. I don't think.
Yeah. Were they perfect? No, not by any stretch of the imagination. But could you have won with those guys? Absolutely, you could have won with them. And that's the coach's job, is to figure out how to scheme up for the talent that you have now. And that was the problem I had last year. I still have an issue this year. I think that Freeze is going to take a long look at this in the offseason and say, okay, we got to get better here as a coaching staff. Now, I know we were talking about Jay Crawford, but, when you look at the offensive side of the ball, I was hearing that Derrick Nix called a good portion of the plays on Saturday versus Kentucky. And, thus the change that we saw, it kind of in approach, they ditched a lot of the RPO, it seemed, and they just played football. They just ran straight up football.
Yeah, and Auburn is kind of built that way. Like, you've got all these offensive linemen that appear to be better at run blocking than pass blocking.
Yeah.
Lean into that.
Lean into it.
Yeah. Lean into it. And they did in the second half, and it was great. Speaking of, Jarquez Hunter. What's the proper balance of using Jarquez Hunter, not only for Saturday, but for the remainder of the season? His usage rate is important. That's coming up right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Mike G, can you imagine buying tickets anywhere other than on the Game Time app?
I can't do it.
No,
not going to do it.
No, I'm there with you. Hey, they've got it's called Game Time Picks. It filters out the fluff and shows you only the incredible deals, so you don't have to shift through thousands of tickets and different prices. It recognizes the value. And to me, that's going to save you time, and it's going to save you money. Hard to beat that. Hard to beat it. All right, so you can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. You can download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Mike G, what time is it?
Game time.
Let's go. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. For your second listen, go check out Locked On UCF if you can't get enough of Mike G. Or if you want to get back on the Gus bus, whatever it might be, go check out Locked On UCF. Mike G just launched that show, and it's really, really good. To be sure,
we're having a lot of fun over there.
Yep. Okay, so Jarquez Hunter, so many folks are saying, like, give him 20 touches a game. And at this point, like, it's hard to argue against that. It's hard to argue against it. And so I agree with the masses. Yes, give Jarquez as many touches as he can physically take. And just by the look of him, like, he looks fresh. He looks fresh. The large load the last 2 weeks don't really seem to be impacting him that much. And so to me, you've got to figure out a way to put the ball in his hands over and over and over again.
Zach, our friend Chris Marler tagged us in a graphic he did on Twitter about what happens to Auburn when Jarquez has less than 20 carries and more than 20 carries. I don't know if you saw it, but the numbers were stunning. And it's crazy. Like, when he gets more than 20 carries a game, he is averaging 215 yards per game on the ground. That's great. Feed him, man. Like, that's over 10 yards per carry.
Yeah.
Give that guy the ball. It's a first time down every time he touches it. I don't understand why. And what I was encouraged on Saturday, it looked like Kentucky was going to stuff the run early. And that's not a bad defense. They had some injuries coming into Saturday, but it's not a bad defense. And Auburn didn't abandon the run. They stuck with it, and Jarquez got loose, and then eventually they wore him down and they controlled the game.
Right. Yeah. So to me, I think the move is, Jarquez Hunter specifically against Vandy. I think time of possession is going to be a huge deal.
Yep.
And keep giving it to Jarquez, give it to Damari, let Peyton run it as well. Keep the clock running and keep your offense on the field. That's how Diego Pavia and Vandy have been able to have the season that they've had. I mean, you look at when they were upset on the road against Georgia State. Like, they lost the time of possession battle. Like, that's how Vandy is pulling off upsets, and that's how you beat Vandy. I think whoever wins the time of possession battle on Saturday wins this football game.
That's how they beat Bama. They held the ball for 42 minutes.
Right.
And Alabama still scored 35 points in only 17 minutes of possession. And so for Auburn, it would be devastating to let Vandy do that, because this offense needs more possessions to find a flow. Right. And what we've seen is they've been unable to start fast in games. Auburn fans were DMing me. They were at me. When Auburn went down 10-0, Zach, there was a collective sigh from the fan base. Like, hell, we're not built to come from behind.
I thought it was done.
I thought it was over.
I'm like, oh, this is about to get ugly.
Yeah. So the defense continued to give the offense opportunities to go out there and find their rhythm, and eventually they did, and they controlled the game on the ground. Now, I believe Auburn won time of possession in that game sizably. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but you've got to do that versus Vandy, because there's a quarterback on the other side that has beaten Hugh Freeze twice in the last in as many years, and you got to keep the ball away from him. You cannot allow them to play ball control. Keep him on the bench. You have to score, and Auburn has to get better in the red zone. So it's not just about sustaining those drives. It's about finding points at the ends of those drives as well, too. Now, we may see Alex McPherson again on Saturday, which I know fans are happy about. Look, don't want to beat down on Towns, but you got 2 weeks this year, he's had crucial missed field goals that could have changed the complexion of the game. I think getting Alex McPherson back is going to be big for a team like Auburn that's struggling in the red zone. Hopefully there are no struggles on Saturday, but they stuck with the run game, and Jarquez took over, and I think that they're going to have to do more of that down the stretch. We'll see Vanderbilt sell out against the run on Saturday, I think.
Yeah, I think so. And can Auburn run it even when there's extra guys in the box, or will Auburn choose to run it with the whole RPO style of play calling? Will they choose to run it when there's extra guys in the box? That's going to be interesting to see. Yeah, you mentioned the time of possession against Kentucky. Auburn controlled the ball for 35 minutes, 42 seconds, so just under 36 minutes.
Yeah, so it was about a 10-minute difference in time of possession. Yeah,
that's a big deal. That's a big deal. So we'll see what happens. Mike G, have you want to throw out a pick real quick?
Auburn versus Vandy? Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Auburn win?
Auburn wins this one 31-17.
A statement will be made if that's the case.
Never in my life did I ever think we'd be sitting here going into November talking about Vandy being an upset win for Auburn at home.
Yeah.
But this is, I don't care that Auburn's favored. This was an upset win at this point of the season.
Yeah. It seems like the court of public opinion is picking Vandy. So we'll see. Hey, our friends at FanDuel are begging you to take Vandy. So that usually says something. Mike G, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
Go on over to YouTube and type in two things for me. Type in The War Report, hit subscribe, hit join, and type in Locked On UCF. Again, we got the Gus buses rolling over there. Well, ran out of gas last week, but they've got the space game this weekend versus the Arizona Wildcats. They come to Orlando. We're going to be covering it this week. Zach, Gus fired Ted Roof. He gave up play calling.
National champion Ted Roof.
Yep, and he's got a quarterback controversy all in the same week. So it's been a busy week over there. We're having lots of fun.
Yep, there we go. Yep, Gus giving up play calls or play calling duties. Boy, have we heard that before.
Yeah, Honk, if you heard that one before.
Yeah, no kidding. Hey, like the video, please subscribe, and we'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.